of CBSE is concerned, you will see that it starts from print statement, simple data types, integer, float, string, features of Python, Python character set, tokens, identifiers, keywords, literals, delimiters, operators, comments, single line, multi-line, continuation statements, clarity and simplification of expression, introduce the notion of variable and methods to manipulate it, concept of L value and R value, even if not taught explicitly, knowledge of data types and operators, accepting input from the console, assignment statement, expressions, operators, and their precedence. Operators and types, binary operators, arithmetic, relational, logical operators, augmented assignment operators, execution of a program, error, syntax error, runtime error, logical error, conditional statements, if else, if else, simple programs, absolute value, sort three numbers and divisibility of a number, notion of iterative computation and control flow, for with range, while, using flowcharts, suggested programs, calculation of simple and compound interests. These are just suggested, we can add more. Finding the factorial of a positive number. This is what is curriculum before control structure in Python in CBSE. Obviously, I am not going to touch upon those portions which are extremely easy and are already known to you, but I'll touch upon all those portions wherever some emphasis is required. So if we talk about tokens, so the first thing what you saw in the curriculum was character set. Character set is basically, you have been using C++ earlier, in which Turbo C++ compiler was being used. Over there, the character set which we were using was only ASCII, that is American Standard Code for Information Interchange. Nowadays, all modern languages not only support ASCII, but also support Unicode and all other standard representations of characters. So Python is going to support all of them. Depends on what kind of character set you want. It is just that you have to configure to work for that. By default, it supports Unicode, UTF. If you want to go for higher or another character, you can change that character set, making the changes in the settings. So character set is nothing but those characters which you can use to represent your data inside a programming language. So that is the smallest component of a particular language, whatever you use in computers. After that, what comes is the token. So token is nothing but the smallest unit which can be represented to make sense inside a language. So just like any other language, Python also supports 5 different types of tokens. One of them is identifiers. These identifiers are the names which are given by Python or by programmer for performing a particular activity. Like you want to take name of a person, name of a city, you will give an identifier as name. If you want to store amount, you will name it as amount. Like if we talk about print, input, all these are also coming under identifiers because they identify a particular function, right? So whether it is a function name, object name, class name, all of them come under identifier. Identifier means which identifies something. Apart from that, there are keywords. Keywords have specific roles inside interpreter or compiler, and which can never be used as name of an identifier given by a programmer. Then comes operators. There are a number of operators, single character representation or multiple character representation, which make sense of arithmetic operation, relational operation, or logical operation. So you can see under the operator, we have listed down some arithmetic operators, some relational operators. Along with that, you have and or not. They will also come under operators. When we talk about delimiters, delimiters are special symbols which help you to separate out or make a container kind of thing. So if you want to club a collection inside a particular group, then you can make use of delimiter. You want to separate out certain components inside the program, then you can use comma, semicolon. You can club a character set inside single or double quotes. They will become strings. You can make use of colon while specifying slicing operation. In list, you can use dot operators also. Then you have literals. So literals are basically the data values, right? Literals are basically the data values which you make use of inside a program. These literals may be integer type, maybe float type, maybe string type, maybe multi-line string. Right? So all these are examples of literals. Now, when you go in the keyword list, and if you type on Google the keywords from Python, you are writing just keywords from Python. So you will be getting 3 types of tables. One type of table which you can see in front of you right now, up to 2.5 version of Python, print and exec, these 2 were keywords, right? But after 2.5 version, you can see this table appeared where print disappeared. So just notice in my earlier table, exec and print are there, and these are 13 numbers. So if you count, there are 5 columns and 6 rows. So there are 30 keywords. Then, if you remember last year, those who attended my workshop, at that time, we shared with you one list of keywords in which we had 33 keywords. And now, in 3.x, especially 3.5 onwards, you will find there are 35 keywords, right? Await and async has been added, right? And those which are seen by you in green here are those keywords which were introduced after 2.5. False, none, true were not the keywords of Python earlier. They got added later, as came later and was added in the list of keywords. Then non-local also did not exist in the earlier list of keywords. So if you will see my earlier keyword list, these 2 are missing in that, right? So they are recently added. I'll just add 2 teachers and I'll just come back. One is Suman. Is there anyone? Okay, I have added 1 teacher. Okay, so basically this is very, very essential for you to know, because when you will be looking for the list of keywords and you will see the table, you have to look at the content, whether it is 13 number, 33 in number, or 35 in number. So in the latest one, you will find 35 keywords, right? So you can see here, there are 5 columns and 7 rows. First 3 are the only keywords which are starting with capital letters, and remaining are all small. Now, The question is L value and R value. When you look at the definitions available everywhere, is very, very confusing and does not make much sense. So I have just written down a very simple explanation of L value and R value. L value is nothing but left value and R value is nothing but right value. So if you look at an assignment operation, on the left hand side you have object identifier, on the right hand side you can write object identifier, expression or value, anything you can write. Anything you can write, and then the object identifier becomes L value, and on the right hand side whatever you write, that becomes R value. So you can see here A is equal to 10 is nothing but object identifier as A and value as 10. So basically we are assigning an integer to a variable which is known as A. Another example, you can write one object identifier equal to another object identifier. That is possible. So you can write B is equal to A. Third, you can write an expression that is 100% acceptable. So on the R value side, you can see it can be a value, it can be a variable, it can be an expression. So basically, when you will be printing C, the final value of C after calculating the expression comes out. So basically, object identifier here is acting as L value, object identifier or expression or value acting as R value, and L value in the assignment operation you can see is A, and R value is nothing but 10. So if we look at this example, what is not possible is left value, that is L value, cannot be an expression or value. So if you at all try to write 10 is equal to A, it will be wrong. If you try to write A is equal to B, it will be right if at all B exists. And if you try writing this expression is equal to a variable, it will be wrong. So basically this particular code will not work because left value cannot be an expression or value. Now let's come to assignments which are possible in Python. All these three examples are already known to you, so I'll not go in deep. A is equal to 1, B is equal to 2, C is equal to 3, same as writing A comma B comma C is equal to 1 comma 2 comma 3, and which is same as A is equal to 1 semicolon B is equal to 2 and C is equal to 3. So there is no difference in these three programs. They will be executed exactly in the same manner. But if you interpret it, the first one is nothing but multiple assignments, multiple statements, multiple lines. In the second one, multiple assignments, single statement and single line. And the last one, it is multiple assignments, multiple statements and single line. So when you interpret these three codes, they have different meaning from each other. Now look at these. If we write A is equal to 1 comma 2 comma 3, there is nothing wrong in it, because as soon as you put comma separated values in front of a assignment operation which are assigned to a single variable, it will be treated as a tuple. So whether you write 2 values, 10 values or 35 values, it does not matter. It will be treated as a tuple. So round brackets are taken as default for any collection. So any collection by default is a tuple. That means constant value set. But if you try the same thing for multiple variables getting assigned to single value, that will not be allowed to you, and you will see the result as type error, because int object is not iterable. That means it will not be repeated for B and C. A can be assigned to 10, but what about B and C? B and C will be lying unattended, and that is why you will get error. Now look at the second one. In the second one, we have two variables getting two values. So obviously this is not possible, and you will get an error which is going to be not enough values to unpack. In the same way, if you have less number of variables and more number of values, at that time you will get too many values to unpack. So the difference between the two is, in one it says not enough values to unpack, in the other you get too many values to unpack. One more similar kind of example I have created from string. So if you write A comma B comma C equals to inverted comma X Y Z, it is going to perfectly work, and it will simply assign A as X, B as Y, and C as Z, and accordingly it will display. But if you have less number of characters inside a string, it will give you error of the similar kind, where it will say not enough values to unpack. In the same way, if you have more number of characters inside the string than the number of variables it is required to assign, it will give you an error as too many values to unpack. Next, if at all you think that it works in this manner, that A gets value of 10 and B gets value of A plus 10 and C is equal to B plus 100, you are highly mistaken. It happens at the same time, and that is the reason if you at all try doing this in the same expression where A is not predefined and B is not predefined, this particular expression, this particular statement is going to give you name error. It will say A is not defined. Where it is raising this error? It is raising this error over here, because it is not finding the value of A, because it is happening at the same time when A is getting value at 10, B is also getting its own value, and that is why it is going to show error as name error, A is not defined. If you want to do that, then A and B have to be predefined before writing this expression. As soon as you do so, it is going to work exactly the same manner, but it will not take the value of A as 10 in the second expression. It will take the value of A here as 100. Okay, so this is one example you can discuss in the class. It is very interesting. Then a very quick overview on the arithmetic operations. You have double star for exponential, a star symbol for multiplication, single division sign is for float division, and double division sign for floor division. Then you have remainder operator, addition operator, and subtraction operator. While giving the examples of division and floor division and remainder modulo, I did not take any string over there, because the string operations do not support any of these operators. So string supports addition, so you can have two strings together forming a concatenated result, and even multiplication supports. Multiplication is supporting star operator, so it can work with numeric value. It does not work with float. It works only with integers. So if you write Python multiplied by 2.5, it will not make any sense. Whereas if you are writing Python into 2, it is going to display Python twice. When we look at subtraction operator, again, it does not get any support with the string values, and that is why the examples are only from integers and float here. Look at the precedence of operator. The first preference, as usual in other languages also, is given to brackets and then to power. And then unary operations, plus and minus when they are treated as unary operation and they work with single operand, then only we are talking about. And then comes to all binary operations, which are star, division, remainder, and floor division. After this, you have plus and minus, then you have less than, equal to, less than, greater than, equal to, and seventh preference is given to equal to operator and not equal to operator. As far as assignment operators are concerned, they are given the last preference, and all these come under assignment operation. Single equal to is used to assign L value with R value, and in the same manner, the remaining assignment operators perform the required operation on the same variable with another variable. Let's look at some execution of expressions in Python. Some places it goes something like other languages, in some places it does not. So these are the examples which are exactly the same way it works in other languages also. So as soon as you see multiplication and addition, multiplication happens first. As soon as you see brackets, the bracket happens first. As soon as you see multiplication, division, minus, and then plus, this is the order followed. And when you look at, let me shift it a little up. So when you look at the last expression in that, the first operation is 5 minus 4, then multiplication, which is 3 into, and then division by 2, and then the last operation which will take place is going to be addition. This works exactly in the same manner in every language. Now let's come to some more examples. Now this is where you will find it interesting. Whenever you are applying power operator, that is star operator, first it will execute the expression on the right side, and then it will execute the expression on the left side. So if you look at the example given here, in this 3 raised to power 2 will happen first, and then whatever result comes, that will become the power of 2, and that is how you will get 512. If it would have worked just like any other operator, it would have done 2 raised to power 3 first and then raised to power 2 later, right? So this is one thing you would like to mention, and you should be very, very clear about while discussing this operator in the class. Now, look at the remainder operator. Remainder operator works exactly in the same manner as plus, minus, multiplication would have worked. That is, it will do the first part first and then second part second. So you can see when we put brackets and force it to work that way. So you can see this particular example is matching with this, and this second example is not matching, right? So this clarifies that only star is the operator which works differently. All other operators work exactly in the same manner. If multiple operators of the same type are there in the expression, normally it goes 1, 2, 3 from left to right. But whenever you have exponential operator, that is star operator, it works from right to left, and it is for all the versions of Python. Now, some more interesting facts. A division operator will always give float as the result, irrelevant of whether you have integers as numerator and denominator. That means upper side of the division sign or lower side of the division sign. Float division will give you integer as the result, but if you have float in numerator or denominator, it will add 0.0 at the end. So it will be a float representation of integer in a way. Now, modulo operator, the result of remainder of the division operation, works upon two operands like this. So if you have to find out remainder, you have to actually subtract numerator by quotient multiplied by denominator, and the quotient will be calculated with the formula numerator integer division denominator. This normally will not help you much, but this formula will be essentially required to be used when you are using negative numbers, negative integers, right? You will see that if at all you want to calculate, just look at the last line. Look at the last line right now, which is right now hidden. Yeah, just look at the last line where we are talking about x% y. How it is going to be evaluated? It will be evaluated as x minus x integer division y multiplied by y. So when you will do this calculation, you will see the result exactly the same way as Python is going to give it to you. Now, the print statements, I will not go in detail because all of you are very clear about SEP and END. So I'll skip this slide, move to the next. This is also a very simple slide where we are making use of END and SEP. Next, the inverted commas, and where we talk about single quotes and double quotes, we have to be really careful. If the content requires double quotes inside, then you will enclose the entire string inside single quote. If you want the content having single quote as part, then you will be enclosing inside double quotes. So that is the way this particular example is going. Like, you can see where we wanted medieval ages, starting with inverted comma here, closing with inverted comma. So these two print statements carry single quote enclosure, whereas where we are talking about Ludwig's Fantasy Castle, so Ludwig's is with single quote, so I am writing the content inside double quote. So this is already known to all of you, so let's skip. Okay, so expression execution, when we talk about, when we have integer division, that is double slashes, when it is both the A and B are positive numbers, there is no issue at all. You can simply find out the remainder and give the result. But when you have numerator or denominator as negative number, in that case, you have to go back and use that formula, which is going to give you the result. So just look at this, where we are saying minus 12 and 5, minus 12 integer division 5 is going to give you 2 as the result, right? Sorry, it will be minus 2.4. So when you'll do the floor of this, floor is the lower side of the number line. So if you are drawing a number line, what is the lower side of number line of 0.24? It will be minus 3. Upper side of that will be minus 2. So we are not going on the upper side, it is going to be seen. So we are going to take the floor of it, and that is why it is not going to be minus 2 as the result, it is going to be minus 3 here. When we'll say 12 minus 5, so look at it. So we are saying 12 divided by minus 5, integer division. So we are talking about the floor of this. So floor of this will be again minus 3. So that is why the minus 3 result comes here. I hope it is clear. Now let's move to remainder operation, where we were talking about that formula. Now we are making use of that formula, which I told you just now. Just look at the first example where A is assigned to minus 5, B is assigned to 2. We are saying C is equal to A percent B. So what is happening here? We are making use of this formula where we are saying minus 5 minus 3 into 2. From where this minus 3 has come? Minus 3 has come from here where we are talking about integer division of 2, which is nothing but floor value of minus 5 by 2, which is going to be minus 3. So that is why it is going to be minus 5 minus 3 multiplied by 2. Okay, so it is going to be minus 5 plus 6 going to be 1. So whatever result you get from the computer, your calculation with this formula will give you the same calculation. Whereas if you remember in C++, it did not happen like this, right? So this is more close to the way the mathematics people work. So Python has better remainder operation than C++, I will say here, because it is exactly the way the calculation of mathematics will suggest you. So if you ask a mathematics teacher, the mathematics teacher will give you the same calculation for finding out the result of remainder, right? We move to the next. Now, this is one very interesting problem. You can see where we have two numbers. Let's assume 900 and 324 in the first example. And we want to find out the bigger out of the two without using if statement. So first of all, see, if I simply say B bool of A integer division 2, it is going to be true, right? And if we simply divide A by B, that is 900 by 324, it is going to be 2. 324 2s are 648. So it is going to be 2. And if you multiply it by A, the bool of this is what? Bool of 2 is true. So, and true is 1. 1 multiplied by 900 will be 900. When we calculate it other way around, where we are talking about B divided by A, it is going to be false. False is 0. So 0 multiplied by anything will be 0. So if you will add it here, 900 will be the result. So if you want to find out bigger out of the two number and you do not want to make use of if statement and you have not taught if statement before that, in that case, this will be a very interesting example to give in the class where without making use of if statement, you will be able to display the higher number out of the two. In the second example, second output, you can see I am assuming A as 75, B as 98. It is going to give you output as 98. So the last print statement is the only one which is needed for doing this. Intermediate print statement I just made so that it will be clear to you what is happening inside this calculation. Okay. Now we move to if statement. So before if statement, we had lot of things. So if you see integer division, remainder operation, these are very, very interesting operations. And with the help of these, you can do lot of if related questions. I'll show it to you later on in this presentation itself. So these are simple examples of if syntax, and if works like this. The minimum number of indentation character is 1 character. Ideal number of characters you should use in the indentation is 2. I will not advise you to use tab for the indentation, because by that your indentation by default goes for 8 characters, and if you have multiple nesting happening, you sometimes go out of the screen. When you take out the printout, that also looks very ugly. So it is advisable that whenever you are indenting your compound statement in Python, it should be done with 2 character spaces, which are very clear when you visually look at it, and single character does not show you that difference, and that is why minimum 2 characters are required. And more than 2 characters, again is going to be confusing for you. Some places you will be using 3 characters, 4 characters. So always remember you have to use 2 characters spacing, and it will be automatically set for the next statements in any of the Python interpreter, right? Let's move to the next example. So this is the same thing, which so as soon as you write any statement outside this indentation, that is going to be out of if. Now, a simple example where we are making use of simple if without else. So you can give such kind of example where we are comparing a string directly without any type conversion. So you took an input, compared with strings, unlike C++ where we were using strcmp for comparing. Here we can directly compare a string and give the result. This is another example with numeric value. So if you have numeric value, I'll suggest you to typecast it to integer and then compare it with another number and write eligible to vote. Now we move to the next example where we introduced else in the earlier example. I'm skipping those examples very quickly because we have a lot of things to do here, because these are already known to you and you have already done a lot of examples of similar kind. This is one example I would like to add here, where eligibility is checked. We want to tell the responder to know how many years are left to vote now. So if he enters or she enters the value of age as 14, it will give you output as wait for 4 years. So you simply write 18 minus age. This will be an interesting kind of thing for the children to do in the class. Now, this is another example which I wanted to discuss here. This is the second problem in sequence of if statement. Let's assume we are entering the first 3 letters of any month, and we are expected to see the number of days in that month. And if at all we enter February, it should also take care of the leap year. So it should ask how many, what is the year, right? In remaining months, we don't require that because in every year, it is followed in the same manner. So this is a simple program I wrote, and you would have written the same program, in which you are just checking whether month entered by the user is Jan or not. If it is so, D is equal to 31. And if month is entered by the user as FEB, in that case, you will ask the user to enter year, and you will be doing the check for the leap year. And if at all you find it to be a leap year, you will make D as 29, otherwise D as 28. In remaining month, we are simply assigning, right? So there is no big deal. Now, if I have to do this program in little smaller representation, I'll prefer it going by this way. So if I write all those months which are carrying 31 days, I'll put them together, separate them by OR operator. And then if at all month is February, I'll put the leap year check exactly the manner the earlier example carried. And if the months are April, June, September, November, I will assign D as 30. Otherwise, I'll simply say that D is 0 because you entered a wrong month. So these two programs are identical. It's just that in this, we are trying to minimize the ambiguity, because D is equal to 31 is repeated in the previous example. D is equal to 30 is repeated in the previous example, which is reduced to one statement here, right? Now, this is another interesting problem. I would like all of you to concentrate on this particular problem. Let's assume there is a company, Travel India Limited, and its reservation windows are open 24/7. That means throughout the day. They have 3 types of window. One set of windows are known as A windows, and the second set of windows are known as B windows, and third set of windows are C windows. And there are timing for A windows to open. So A set of windows are open from early morning 1 o'clock, 0001 hours to 400 hours. So A window is open. After that, 401 hours to 800 hours is B window open, and 801 hours to 1200 hours C window open. And in the same manner, after noon, once again, the same sequence is repeated. So basically, each employee of this company is working 8 hours a day, but they do not work continuously on the window. They work 4 hours in early morning time and the 4 hours in the afternoon time. So this is how the company is working. They are giving a gap of almost 8 hours in the middle to each employee. So you have to write a program where the user will enter the time in 24 hours clock. Now 24 hours clock work in two ways. One, it starts from 0001 and ends at 2400, and another is it starts at 0000 and ends at 2359. So I am assuming here that our clock is such that it starts with 0001 hours and it ends at 2400 hours. So this is what our assumption is. So let's write a program. What we are doing here, we are simply comparing the time. This is a longer method, I will say. It is a longer method. I'll simply make use of my string manipulation without making any change in the data type. So as the user enters the 4 digits of the number in the form of a string, I am comparing exactly in the same manner. So morning and afternoon hours, if it is matching for the window A, I am assigning window A. If it is matching for window B, I am assigning window B. If it is matching with the timing which are assigned to window C, I am assigning window C. This is a longer method. This anyone will do. Now let's come to a shorter method for doing the same. This is a simple, the same method which anyone will do, and I expect if you will give this problem to children, they will also do this way. But there is a shorter way of doing it without making use of any of the if statement. And this is going to make children very, very interesting, because in this, without making use of any if statement, you are getting the same result. What we are doing, we are making use of integer division and remainder operation, and we get the same result. But while telling this example, I will suggest you to tell them about CHR built-in method, which is going to take only integer as argument, and it will return the ASCII value of or Unicode point of alphabet. Right. So you have to tell them the basic that 65 is A, 66 is B, and so on. Then 97 is small a, 99 is small c, and so on. And 48 represents 0, 51 represents 3, and so on. So after telling them, you give them this particular code, they will really enjoy. So in this code, you put any time from the time slot which we have specified, you will get the right window alphabet. Okay. So I hope this example you found interesting. Now let's move to another example. Let's assume we have 3 numbers and user is entering them. We have to arrange them in ascending or initially ascending order, and then later on I'll tell you how to go for descending order. So this is the expected problem, and below that you are seeing the expected results for various set of numbers. So it can be in any sequence. So user is free to enter number in any order, any random order. So keeping this in mind, this is the logic which will help you to do so. First of all, you will just think about A and B. So out of 3 numbers, you just pick up A and B and see if at all B is found to be smaller than A, then that means A and B are themselves not arranged in order. So first of all, arrange A and B. Once you have done that, then C will come in picture. So you will check whether C is less than B or not. If C is less than B, then you simply change their order. But after doing that, you need to check whether the new value of B has become lesser than A or not. If it is so, then you'll exchange their order. And finally, after these 2 sets of if statements, you'll find the final result exactly in order. Right? So this is how, without making use of sort or sorting methods, with simple 2 if statements, the second if statement is nested one, and you are able to get the result in order. I hope you understood the logic behind it. The logic is, first of all, let's assume there are only 2 numbers. To arrange them in order, you just have to simply make use of A comma B is equal to B comma A. They are put in the order. In the next if statement, we are checking it with C. But while rearranging B and C, it should not become smaller than A. B should not become smaller than A. If that is what happens, then A and B have to be rearranged. The second, arranging 3 values in descending order. You just change the less than sign to greater than sign. Not a big deal. Let's move to the next. Instead of 3 numbers, now we have 4 values. What we'll do, we'll apply the same logic in continuity. The first thing, we'll assume that there are only 2 numbers. Then we'll apply the logic of 3 numbers. And then finally, we'll end up doing the 4th number also in the same manner. So you will copy the same logic which was followed for 3 number in 4 numbers also. It is just that one set of if statement will increase here. That is the 4th number lesser than the 3rd number or not. If it is so, then you change the position and then you copy paste this entire code here also. Okay. In the same manner, if there are 5 numbers, you just copy paste the last if statement and add E in that, and it will do that logic. So this is how you arrange any number of numbers without making use of any built-in function and bubble sort or selection sort. Okay. Now, this particular code, you just look at carefully and you will say that I know it all. Just look at carefully. There is nothing new I am telling you. This is all known to you. True and false is false. True and or false is true. 1 and 0 is 0. 0 and 1 is 0. 1 or 0 is 1 and 0 or 1 is 1. All of you know this. Yes? No? I hope everyone knows this. Now let's come to the next slide, where the interesting facts. When we talk about 23 and 12, now, first of all, let me tell you the behavior of AND operation. In AND operation, irrelevant of whatever happens, it will check the left side of AND as well as right side of AND. And whenever you talk about OR operation, if your left side is true, there is no need to go on the right hand side. With that logic, if you look at the very first case here, where we are saying 23 and 12 is 23 and 12, the result will be 12. It is nothing to do with 23 is non-zero and 12 is non-zero. Just look at it as 2 different integers on either side of AND operation. So whatever is on the right hand side, that becomes the answer. So if it is 23 and 12, then 12 is the answer. If it is 12 and 23, 23 is the answer. But in OR operation, as I told you, whichever, if the first operation is true, It does not move to the second side. So if you write 23 or 12, 23 will be the answer. If you write 12 or 23, 12 will be the answer. Okay. The same thing goes and continues with strings also. If I write Zamar and Suraj, Suraj will be the answer. Zamar or Suraj, Zamar will be the answer. Okay. 90 and 91. This string 91 will be the answer. 1 and or 0. So 1 will be the answer. So whenever it is and, it is the right hand side, which is the answer. And whenever it is or, whatever is there on the left hand side is the answer. Now, when we talk about -1 equal to true, -1 equal to true, it is going to be false, because -1 is not true. Now, if at all you write bool 0, it is going to be false. And you write bool of any non-zero, it is going to be true. Non-zero. Now, let's work on the loops. Now, before entering in loop, you have to give some real life example. So you have to tell them what is a terminating and what is non-terminating loop. Non-terminating loop is morning, noon, evening, night. Again, it will repeat morning, noon, evening, night. Again, it will repeat morning, noon, evening, night, right? And so on. Then what is terminating loop? You want, there is a laborer and he is supposed to make a 10 feet deep hole. So he will start digging. So he'll dig and then he'll measure. He'll dig and further measure, dig and further measure, dig and further measure, right? So as soon as 10 feet hole is ready, what will happen? He has to stop the work. So this is a terminating loop. So before entering in loop and playing around with numbers, I think it is better that they should know in the real life what are the examples of loops. Then you can just give them an idea with the help of a flowchart. This is a flowchart. The first part is a non-terminating loop where you keep on displaying numbers one after another, never ending. And in the second example, as soon as the value of C is greater than N, it will stop. So this flowchart, these two flowcharts give you very good example of terminating and non-terminating loops. So these are very simple examples of loops. So I'll not go in deep. The first one is displaying first n number of even numbers. The second one is basically 5 times of n till n is not assigned as 0. This is an example where the first program is showing you find multiples of 5 and terminate it with 0. The second example is basically finding out the common factors of n and m using while loop. So you are taking the values of n and m and you are comparing till it is less than or equal to the minimum out of the two. It is continuing. And as soon as it is more, it terminates. So if you look at 16 and 24, it is going to give you 1, 2, 4, and 8. So these are the factors. Next example is simply displaying the digits in the reversed order. And 1.5 is an example where you can make use of while else, where else is part of while loop. So till you are not reaching at the last point, you are continuing with checking with the remainder operator. If the remainder is not equal to 0, you are continuing. And if you come to the last point where C is less than C is equal to N, and you have crossed all the checking, then you will display prime number. And if it is not a prime number anywhere in the middle, wherever it will find, it is able to divide the number and remainder becomes 0. It will display not prime and it will terminate the loop without reaching to else, it will come out. Okay. Then for loop, these are two simple examples where we are just displaying even numbers, just like the previous example. And in the second one, we are displaying sequence as 1, 4, 7. So basically, starting from 1, going up to n plus 1 in step of 3. This is a pattern example. So with the help of single loop, there is no need of writing nested loop here, because you have string operation available which helps you to multiply with 1. Okay. The next one is an example where we are displaying all the factors of a particular number. In the second one, we are displaying LCM and GCF, that is greatest common factor. It is also known as GCD. So all these are synonyms, HCF, GCF, or GCD, and LCM. So this is a simple case where we are just checking the factors, and if the factors are matching, we are just storing it in HCF. So whichever is the highest, we come out with that. And calculating LCM becomes very simple when you already have HCF with you by writing multiplication of two numbers divided by HCF. Then these are the examples where we are talking about sum of series and Fibonacci series. So Fibonacci series can be done just simply by assigning f comma s is equal to s comma f plus s. So if you remember, in the assignment operation, I told you that this kind of thing will work only when you have the variables already defined beforehand. So in this particular example, it will work fine because it is already defined. Then this is another example where we are making use of for else. So basically loop terminating in the middle, so else did not work. And in the second example where the 13 is entered, the loop will terminate at the end, and that is why no common point and over will be displayed. So basically here the common point will be displayed because somewhere in the middle it got terminated because this condition matched. So value of I and j matched, and that is why it terminated. In the second example, when we entered 13 as the number, in that case the common point did not occur, and that is why it displayed statement which is part of else statement. This is another example where you can see that we are making use of two numbers, and till the point two numbers are matching with this condition, not matching with this condition, it is continuing with for loop, and as soon as it matches with this condition, it stops. So you can see here when we enter 2 and 5, it will display, 3 and 7, it will display. As soon as you write 6 and 1, where the n is greater than 1, it will stop. So this is another example. Then in nested loop, if you want to check multiple numbers, whether they are prime or not, so you can make use of for inside while inside for inside for, while inside while. So all those kind of possibilities are there. So you can make use of nesting. So in this particular example, we are displaying the numbers which are prime or not. And at the same time, as soon as you write a number which is less than or equal to 1, this loop terminates. So without making use of any condition, on top we are putting while true. So as soon as the break happens, the outer loop terminates. And if this break does not happen, the second loop of for starts from here. So it is just checking whether a number is prime or composite number. With this, today's session is over, and we will get back to you pretty soon with Meet 2. And you can definitely write to us on Python for +2 group. And if you have not joined, this is the group address where there are 500 plus computer science teachers. They answer queries of each other. So it is not only us answering the questions, but the entire group of computer science teachers help each other, support each other for solving any kind of problem. So whether it is installation related issue, whether it is any kind of thing. So thank you very much.